losers, inspire.
Welcome back to another Wisdom Wednesday discussion. I am your guide, Science Inspire, generating, uplifting, inspiring, developing, and empowering you to live inspired every day, forever, because that's life. And this is week 2 of our February monthly theme as we investigate these internal blocks to our transformation. Today, we are talking about understanding resistance and limiting beliefs. They're called limiting beliefs because they limit our abilities. Yet they seem to be unlimited because they don't ever stop. They just keep going and going. So you're like, dang, these limited beliefs sure are unlimited. That is when we don't understand them. So we're going to talk about the resistance and the limiting beliefs, our life lens, how we're looking at this. The lens we want to look at this through is seeing how what we resist is often what reveals what's ready to grow. I know personally that was hard for me to understand in the beginning. It was like where I resist is where I want to grow. I'm resisting it because I don't want to go there. How am I supposed to grow there? And then you start to see this. It only takes one example. It takes one time for us to see ourselves not resist, to go towards something that we feared. And then we start to, when we make ourselves aware, you start to question, wait a minute, if that's what I was afraid of, and then I did it anyway, you're so excited about the accomplishment that you start to wonder, why was I ever afraid of that in the beginning, limiting ourselves? Yet the life principle that we're looking at. So the lens is how we start to examine what we reveals is often showing us where we're ready to grow. That's the lens we want to look at this through. Not that is something we should avoid, but that by avoiding it, we're hindering our growth. The life principle that this discussion is going to be ruled by is a limiting belief is not a truth about the world. It is not a truth about the world, but it is a story about yourself that the world has agreed to reflect back to you. So the world is mirroring what you already think about yourself. And to change that reflection that we're seeing back from the world, we must first change the story that we are telling ourselves. It starts within. See, we think this person is treating me like that because they're just rude, they're being mean. Why is everybody always doing this? Because you're always doing it. This is where we start to challenge our misunderstanding about control. A lot of times we say, I ain't got no control and choice. I'll say that. Because a lot of times we say, I don't got no choice. It's out of my control. And there isn't much that is actually out of your control or that you don't have a choice over, especially when it pertains to your life. Now, you don't have a control or a choice when it comes to your neighbor, your friend, your brother, your sister, your mother, your son, or your daughter. No, but we don't need control over them. We need control over ourselves. It's our life that's having the problems that we want to stop. And it's time that we start to take accountability for what we create. And that starts within. We start the narrative about how we are incapable of, unworthy of, and then that's reflected back to us from the world. I know it's easier to think that no, the world is just doing this or people are just doing this. It's easier to think that. And we've gotten to this point where it's like you were just born X amount of years ago, and so much of the world had already existed before you came in. So it's like it makes more sense, right? For the world to be doing this to you, not for you to have any type of effect or control over this. We're going to dive deeper in this as we get into our opening and our keys to life. But first, let us affirm, right, that I challenge beliefs that no longer serve my growth. We're not simply just accepting this. That's why we're here, so we can make change, to be renewed. We have accepted this same old for so long, we're tired. It's got to be something out there. And we are at the point where we're willing to try or do whatever because we're tired. Yet this is where you actually get re-energized, Because the moment we start to see that our beliefs are where we establish are the point where we correct, we don't have to do so much running around. Because if I'm challenging that my beliefs are what no longer serve me, and that is what put the limitation on it, once I remove or renew those beliefs, those limitations, they are removed as well. And we do that through challenges, not through avoidance. Because we want to identify it, we want to say, that's it right there, but we also want to dismantle this. We want to break it down. We want to know, where does this start? Where's the core of this at? Where does this narrative begin? And then we're going to make sure that we're continuing to get the information that we are capable of understanding, because we get a lot of information and that can be our detriment. Because even if you don't understand that information, it is here now. And that can cause problems in your life. If you just hear studies have proven something, you may not even understand what they're talking about. But let's just say studies have proven that cheese is, and it's something negative. You have no clue what they're talking about. But the moment you see a piece of cheese, it's going to pop in your head, right? So we are creating these, but it's also based off of the information that we're getting in and that we're telling ourselves. So ensure that the information that we are taking in, that we understand it, because we're not trying to create more flaws. And the way that we create these flaws is through misunderstanding or lack thereof. If I don't understand how to do something, but then you give me access to that, oh, I'm gonna mess it up. And this is what has been happening to us since our inception. We didn't quite understand what we were doing, but we was doing it anyway. And there is some type of trial and error that has to happen in our lives. This is correct. There also comes a point where we have to begin to decide and determine what stays and what goes. So we want the ability to detect these limiting beliefs in real time when it comes up, and then to understand its makeup. How did it come about? What is going into that? What are the factors that's creating this? And then we're going to rewrite that into an empowered belief. And these are the steps we're taking. We've made ourselves aware that maybe there's a problem here. And so we want to get to the point where we can see those limited beliefs in real time and grab a hold of them. Where you come from, and then rewrite it, change it into something that is empowering, not devouring us. So our opening, this is where we're going to name the problem that we have. This is where we see that we have misunderstood resistance. So it's time to talk to that inner gatekeeper. All right. Last week, week 1, we mapped our patterns. We started to figure where they were. We put them on the map. Here they go. We are seeing them now. This week, it's time, like I said, to meet that gatekeeper. And that is that internal voice inside of us that is enforcing those patterns. So the gatekeeper is enforcing the patterns because that's their job, but it's based off limiting beliefs. They don't know or control that. It's, I'm here to do this thing. So I gatekeep in, out. That limiting belief, though, is what is causing that gatekeeper to enforce the wrong set of rules. And so we're not looking at this as something that's evil, right? We do this a lot. We want to point blame and everything. Yep, it's that thing. See? And that's the problem. It's not going to work that way. It's not going to work that way. This is something I'm personally learning in real time in my life. That it don't matter how mad or frustrated you get with something, that ain't the way you fix it. That ain't the way you change it. That is not. We believe it is because we see in history and in our lives, but if you actually see when force and what's going on in the world today, we're using a lot of force. People talking about going to war, and it's not helping at all. You could actually make more waves with compassion, but that person has to be capable of that. And I don't think the current stage we're in, we have a lot of leaders that are capable or understand that. So they use this iron fist because they misunderstand resistance. They are the gatekeepers in our reality, and they have limiting beliefs that they're enforcing. Oh, this group is inferior. Oh, this group is the problem. That is a limiting belief because you point outside of yourself to something or someone else, and it ain't got nothing to do with you. But now we've wrapped our belief around that limitation that there's inferiority somewhere. That's neither here nor there. What we're talking about is how this is blocking us, but we don't want to look at it as something that is evil because that's not going to allow us to understand, perceive, and implement what we need to do to reinstill that belief. So what we have to do is befriend the gatekeeper. And once we do that, we're going to get the key. So, hey, see you over here. Keeping the gate. Gotcha. Appreciate what you're doing. You got this key, and I need that. And that key is simply us being able to identify these limiting beliefs and begin to change them. The first thing we need to change is this misunderstanding that we have with resistance, because most people think that resistance means, oh, you lazy or you're fearful or you're a failure. Resistance doesn't actually mean that. Resistance is not necessarily the enemy that we think it is. Because I'm resisting something, it doesn't mean it's negative. Resistance can and does often appear right before growth. It's like uncomfortable, like I don't want to go. No. Right before we grow, you start to see growth requires more responsibility, more accountability a lot of times. And we may not be ready for that. So we resist. And it's not always that you're resisting by fighting. Resisting is simply questioning it. Should I don't know. And when you should be moving, you're stopping to check, hey, what's your opinion? That's not what we should be doing at that time. So oftentimes right before growth, we see resistance. We also see resistance when we avoid what usually has meaning in our life. So the things that have the most meaning in our lives, we're going to duck, we're going to dodge, we'll avoid that. And I know for me, what I avoided was addressing that people pleasing, addressing me constantly giving everything to everybody else and not having nothing left for myself. And the reason why I had to address that is because the truth was uncomfortable, that I am supposed to take care of myself, that I'm not supposed to be out here trying to do things for other people that I can't do for myself. I shouldn't be trying to heal you if I am incapable of doing that, or help you if I'm struggling. I only help you struggle more. And so I was avoiding myself. And that's where I found the most meaning of everything. It was like the things that I feared, looking in the mirror. I didn't like to smile. I didn't like hearing my voice, didn't like seeing myself. I avoided that. I wouldn't create content. I wouldn't talk. I was just limited. It was more comfortable to hide myself. And I found out that I was avoiding that because that carried the most meaning for me in my life. And also knowing that the mind is going to protect what it believes is keeping us safe. This is why we have to renew ourselves, our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions, because the mind is going to protect what keeps us safe. And that can hinder you in real life. You had a negative occurrence, whether it was on a job or with somebody, and you created this belief in your head. And then that same belief is going to hinder you later on because what you thought it was protecting you from is now hurting you. And I talked a little bit about this last week, but me personally, that has to deal with relationships. I had such a negative experience. And a lot of the people that I talk to, whether clients, whether it's just people that I'm having conversation with, they're experiencing the same thing. We've had a negative experience in a relationship, and now that limiting belief has tainted us. Either it's a limiting belief in ourselves of what we deserve or don't deserve, or a limited belief in what is out there, whether it's men or women. Women have a limited belief of men, and men have a limited belief of women, and it is causing a problem because when you think it's keeping you safe, it's actually blocking you from meeting that person that you really want to meet. It's blocking you from going to the place that you really need to go, but you're too afraid to go because what happened before. So you're going to miss out on the opportunities. You're going to miss out on life because we think we're keeping ourselves safe from something. This is also why we should not be looking at the mind as evil. We look at everything as evil. Everything is doing everything to us but us. It's very hard for us to look in the mirror and be like, I did that. My thoughts created that. My actions created that. And if I change that, my outcomes will change. But it's easier to be like, nope, it's them people. It's that thing. The mind is evil. And it's like, it's not. It is simply protecting what it believes is keeping you safe. And if you, again, develop it and say that you no longer need to do that, you recognize how you are in charge, right? You're the boss. So you say, hey, you ain't got to do that no more. Move. And then you start to develop that in yourself. And eventually you stop seeing that thing as something you need to protect yourself from or avoid or resist or fear. So the guiding question that I have for us today is, what do I keep postponing? And what story do I tell myself about it? What do I keep postponing? And what is the story that I'm telling myself about it? What am I telling myself, or the excuse that I'm giving myself to postpone, to push that back, to avoid it? I ain't want to make content because nobody want to hear me talk. Ain't nobody going to listen to me. You know what? And that's what I believe. And it was true. Because at that time, when I didn't believe nobody would listen, I would talk. Nobody would listen. I'd be like, see, told you. But now my reality is different. And I had to go back and then look back at that and say, what story was I telling myself to make that true at that time? Because it's not true. Because I have, not only do I have people listening to me, but I have people reaching out, being thankful for what I'm saying. And I'm just like, what? Oh man, thank you for everything that you're doing. I'm looking like I didn't do anything. I'm just telling you my story. And they're like, oh my, I needed that. And I laugh about this a lot of times because I'm laughing at my younger self, the past self, who was afraid to speak because he was like, ain't nobody gonna listen to me. And now I'm sitting here, people, not only are people listening to you, they have shown respect and appreciation for you. So what story was I telling myself that made that true then? We need to begin to realize that resistance isn't stopping you. Instead of thinking that it's stopping you, recognize that it's pointing to something that we need to examine. But it's like, I ain't going to know. You need to go in there and see that thing that's in there. When you go see it, then, oh, we won't resist it no more. But as long as you don't want to look at it, as long as you're afraid, we're going to resist that because we believe it's protecting you. So resistance is only working on your behalf. This is where we are building up our courageous self, because we have put things in place and we're like, so we'll resist it. Now we have to be courageous enough to just go look. Come on, that wasn't so bad, was it? Nope. And then again and again, one step at a time, but we are moving towards that. Which brings us to our key to life. We are reframing our limiting beliefs. Picture that. We are reframing our limiting beliefs because our limiting beliefs are only what we have created. We've established it. And so we are the ones that are designing. We're designers, we are creators, we are builders. But it's not externally, we build internally first. And those limiting beliefs are designed inside ourselves, yet there are perceptions of reality. How you perceive a thing. And one thing that we may not always check on is our perceptions. How do I see something and why do I see it that way? I hate to say it. I don't hate to say it. What we're seeing in this country right now is based off of those perceptions of reality and those limiting beliefs, which is making a whole country, a group. We're all implicit in this. How we are looking at each other, perceiving each other, pointing fingers. This group is bad. That group is bad. They're the problem. No, they're the problem. And have we ever even sat down to challenge where our perceptions came from? Because it can be as simple as you was a child and you heard your parents say, I don't like no conservatives. And then boom, you from that point on, you didn't like conservatives. You never actually was like, there's a legitimate reason. I've established this. They are actually like that. It's not. And so, what is operating our perceptions of reality are limitations. So, we continue to see limitations. It's not that they're walls, it is that they are blueprints that we agreed to build with. You're an architect, and these are the blueprints you agreed to build from. But before you look at yourself and start dropping your head and be like, no, if you agree to something, what we're saying is in all things, we want choice. I don't care what it is. If I chose to do that, I can live with that. I can't live with somebody making choices for me and then I got to accept the consequences too. No, we're not doing that. So if I chose to agree to this, guess what? I can change it. That's the only focus we need to have right now. Not how hard it's going to be, how long it's going to take, how much. If I did it, I can undo it. Period. Start with that level of empowering yourself because your limited belief is going to tell you, no, you can't. Your limited belief is going to tell you, no, I can't do anything. No. That's your limited belief. You construct the walls and say, somebody else put this wall here. Why is this wall in my way? And it's time that we begin to reframe how this happened. So as we begin to reframe, how we became the architect of our inner world, this is, for me, this is akin to putting away those childish things because childish beliefs were formed with the child's understanding. This isn't a negative thing. That's one thing we got to release. We attach a negative to everything that has got to be wrong or bad. Just look at it. A child is innocent. So how you looking back at your childhood trauma and you're putting a negative association on it? You're putting it on your parents and your grandparents when they was in the same position you've been in, right? These beliefs were formed, a lot of them were formed when we were children, when the information was being taken in. This is why we are very conscious of what we do around kids. This is why we're very protective of children. This is why we don't say, oh, it's okay, because that's where it starts. As a child, you are receptive. Children don't really know much like that. They naturally have an intelligence that we don't listen to as adults, but that's neither here nor there. But they don't truly know a lot. They're receiving it. This is why they mimic what you do. You say, damn it. And the baby, he said, damn it. That's how I learned. So the childhood beliefs were formed with a child's understanding. Yet, when we move to adulthood, we have to reframe those beliefs. We've expanded our intelligence, so we need to apply that to our beliefs. Imagine us going to school and we're supposed to be getting smarter, we're getting older and we're getting smarter, but we keep the same beliefs. You know better and don't do better. You keep knowing better and doing worse. When we know better, we're supposed to do better. So we shouldn't be talking about this thing or acting the same way we was before. We shouldn't be in the same fear. At some point, we're learning from this. At some point, we should be growing, right? Because when we hear what Paul was talking about, it wasn't talking about toys. He wasn't talking about put away those toys. You're not a child no more. He was talking about thoughts and patterns, perceptions, interpretations, your internal framework that was formed before you had the capacity to question them. Now that you are mature of age, that doesn't mean 22, 33. No, of age is maturity, your intelligence, your understanding. You must put away those childish things, meaning you have to renew your beliefs. Put those old, outdated, limited beliefs away because that is what is causing the problems in your life. It is 2026, but your thinking is 1996. And you don't see how that's going to cause a problem. In 1996, we didn't have mobile phones like we do. We didn't have smartphones. So you're in 2026 and you're saying, my issue is, what is this thing? Right. So as you update your belief, update your understanding, your operating system, you start to have less problems. This is evident in our society with the older we get. We have been stuck in our ways, and this is where it breaks us from relating. We don't know what these kids doing. And every generation says that the young generation lost it. Every single one of them. You can go back to your childhood whenever you was born. We can go back all out when I was born in 1926. I don't think we have many people that are that age. That's like you 100. Hey, shout out to you. Let us know the recipe in the comments because we don't know how to get there. But what we're saying is we all doing the same thing, and it's because we lose touch. So my generation looking back at the generation behind us, we saying, I don't know what they doing, they crazy. But I remember when I was that age and they said the same thing about me. Now I got older and I'm watching us say the same thing about them. It's like, wait, time out. Why are we saying this? Because I don't understand what they're doing. Why they doing this? Back in my day, we didn't do that. This ain't your day. And that's the problem. You need to update your belief and understanding so that you can, oh, I see this. And our updated beliefs have to be wired internally. Our system is so outdated that the universe and the world has upgraded. We have such an outdated system that we operate externally, internally, that the whole world got flipped upside down. You hear so much about yoga, mindfulness, meditation, so much now that it's like it's rewiring you because you were external. The meditation and the yoga, it looked cool and the lattes and all that, but that is literally like it's an art form. It is bringing you back in touch with yourself. It don't matter if you can do it for 2 hours or 2 minutes. When you are doing it with intention, it's going to have great results. When it don't, it's because you doubt. You can argue with yourself. We have been doing this too long and have inspired our own life by it to where we're not going to argue. If you don't believe, you don't believe. I just want you to come to an understanding one day that, oh, that was the problem. It was my beliefs. And now it is time to put away those childish things and renew, right? To reframe and renew. We have been told that we are supposed to. So if we're not, that's the issue. It's simpler than we make it. What's the problem? You probably ain't update your operating system. So you still believe in old, outdated things. And now it's causing that in your life. So behind our resistance, the things that we resist actually lives, right? Belief that what I can't. That's why I'm resisting because I can't. No, I can't. And then we'll get mad. And then we'll get forceful. Now I can't. Well, you sure did right there. Behind that resistance is the belief that it's not the right time. That was me. All right, no, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. I'm waiting on the right time. I was 24 when I said that. I'm 39. What is the right time? And if I listen to that disbelief, I would say, oh, now I'm too old, and lock myself completely out. But we believe, and we believe in Spark. Yet, behind that resistance of where you believe is, that's just not who I am. I'm just, sounds I hear you, but I'm just not somebody who can live inspired every day. I'm just not somebody who can be empowered and inspired and uplifted. I'm just not somebody who is resilient. And it's like, you're right. I'm not going to argue with you. You're not, because you said it. I just want you to know you could be. Maybe you're not right now, but you could be. These are not truths. Tell them to yourself and you'll be like, that's my truth. It is not truth. They're just learning conclusions that you chose to accept. And you just like, you stuck there. Now you're stubborn. You're like, I don't care. I don't want to see it. And that's fine. If we want to be stuck in your ways, just be accountable for it. That's all we're saying. Wherever you are, just be accountable for it. Because Henry Ford tells us that whether you think or you think you can't, you're right. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right. Those beliefs, they feel like facts. This is why we say you are what you believe. So if you are going to believe and have something feel like facts, believe inspired. Believe that if you never stop prospering, it's because you gave the required effort daily. That's it. You are what you believe. If you say you You can't. If you say that's not who I am, then that's not who you are. Yet if you believe that that's who you are, truly, not egotistical, because what did I say? There was the ego. I was talking on the phone to somebody the other day, and we were talking a little bit about this, and I was just speaking about how confidence and cockiness can look the same because you don't see the difference, you experience it. So a cocky person and a confident person can sound alike. You'd be like, oh my God, he's so cocky. The difference between that cocky person and that confident person is when it's time to perform, the confident person is going to do what he said he was going to do. The cocky person is going to be like, see, what happened was, look, I didn't get enough sleep last night. They was over there shining lights. They was cheap talking. I ain't eat. Man, what? The sun went down early and I thought it'll be everything. The cocky person is always going to clarify with excuse. The confident person is going to do what they came to do, and then they're going to say, I told you, because I put in the work. A confident person understands internally. A cocky person has no connection internally. They're seeing everything externally. They have this belief without the experience. The confident person has the belief because of the experience. I'm confident because I've been in here doing this. I've been doing this for 10 years on myself. So I'm confident that you can live inspired every day. I'm confident that losers love outreaching, set expectations, rewarding self, and that losers inspire everyone no matter what they tell you and how they try to demean you by saying you're a loser. And you're like, no, I'm not. Because I've been doing this for that long. And I was that person. And I created that acronym. Actually, let's change that. That was delivered through me. I don't even want to claim nothing no more. It ain't even me. Because I remember when it was me and I couldn't choose the right thing, couldn't do the right thing, was believing the wrong thing. So this ain't me. I ain't going to fully take credit for this. But I say it came through me. Yet that experience is what makes us confident because we continue to reiterate, we continue to grow, we continue to go, we continue to explore. And the more you do that, the more confident you become. The less you do it, the less confident you become. And so now you're doing more discouraging. So you're confident in disbelief. We all confident in something. You're just confident that you can't, that it's not the right time, that that's not who you are. And I'm confident that, oh, you can, that the right time is right now, and that is who you are. You're exceptional. And I know that these beliefs that you have is just what you interpret. It's not the reality. Because I was there and I still am there. There are still beliefs that you have to continue to reframe. Because again, we came in here as kids. How much information do you even take in on a daily basis? For us to think that we can do this in 1 year, 6 months, that's crazy. For us to go through all the trauma and turmoil that we've been through in our lives and believe that it's going to take a year therapy, a 6-month meditation, a 3-day retreat that we going and then we done. Man, this is a full journey. This is why this is where we want to establish ourselves. You start to have fun right here. Have fun renewing yourself. Be in joy as you continue to grow. Live inspired every day forever because you are continuing to prosper. You are giving the daily effort. We didn't just do this for 3 days and then we done. No, this is daily. Even if all I can do today was say, it's okay. That's it. Something encouraging each day versus something discouraging. And this is why. Transformation begins when our beliefs are questioned, not obeyed. I was a hard-headed, stubborn kid. Why? Because I used to question everything. Not because I was trying to show you up or anything. I want to know. So I'm a question. I want to know. Don't just tell me something and say because I said so. We don't have a problem. Because you said so. Who they think they is? Like that was my mentality. That still is. Be like, so I question everything. And I'm seeing now it's because of that I'm able to continue to grow now in this life because I continue to question everything. And when I say question everything, It is not in a negating or even a discouraging way. When I make or not, when I do something, I'll question that. Why did I do that? Why did I choose to do that thing? Because I want to know what went into that. Was I influenced by something? Did I make that? Is that from something old popping up again? But it's always just a check instead of making it a question. And I know we have been trained really to not question, to be afraid of that. Oh, don't ask no questions. Because we've seen that if people ask questions, they get dealt with. If you don't ask no questions, you get no answers. And in that world, that means you're being told what to do. That's dictatorship. That's totalitarian governments. And though you may call democracy all you want to, if you aren't able to question, then that's not life. Why are we obeying if we can't question? The best leaders that I've ever had in my life were those who didn't mind me asking questions. They actually warranted. They actually got frustrated when you didn't ask. And I know y'all got questions. What? Come on, man, ask some questions. And I was like, what? You want me to ask questions? It's gonna be all day. Take a seat. But that's what you want. This is what God calls us to do. We'd be like, don't you question who? That's another day. But I want to know who y'all looking up to. If you that fearful and can't question what? Maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'm lost or something because I just don't see that anywhere. I used to when I was fearful and wanted to be was capable of being controlled and just accepted what I was told. Of course, you don't question. But when you understand how life actually works, this is how you operate with questions. Matter of fact, the issue is that you keep all your questions inside unanswered, so you assume things. Instead of just asking, getting the clarity that you need, you will assume. You know what they say about assumptions? When you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. However, in this life, when you assume, you make an ass out of you, not me. Less assumptions, more clarifications. So let's get into some our anchors that we have for our key to life. The first one is going to come to us from cognitive behavioral theory. It's about core beliefs. We scour everywhere to try and find things that, not try and find things, we scour everywhere to find what aligns and relates because we have a tendency to reject and resist. So in our minds, we'll say, nope, nope. So this is why we pick pieces from all different parts because now there is going to be less ability to deny because it's not just coming from one doctrine. It's not just coming from one place, one source. We're showing how all of it is included in source. And we have simply misunderstood, disbelieved, and resisted. So cognitive behavioral theory, the core says, core beliefs are deeply held. Like a baby. Core beliefs are deeply held, absolute statements about ourselves. The thing about that is, we talked last week about creating those then statements. So it's not necessarily an absolute because when we have a core belief that is an absolute statement about ourselves, others, and the world, it begins to act as the lens that we see everything through. So we filter our experiences through that and we're like, did this really happen? You will try to confirm something you already know. I was in the car today and I was dropping somebody off. We were at the light and there was construction. You can see the construction. They say it's construction. There's a person with a stop sign and they said, you think traffic is backed up because of this construction, huh? And I just looked because I'm like battling. I'm very straightforward. I'd be like, but it's like, don't do that. It was like, I do think that. Yet we do that. You know that that's true, but you'll start to filter things through what you already know to see if it's true. And that's because at your core, there isn't belief, but disbelief. When we are doing that, that is how we know. That is how I was able to recognize it. Because every time I knew something, I questioned it. Not like questioning like I just told you, like question things. No, I would try to check. I would ask somebody their opinion. And that It tainted it. It watered it down because it was something that was internal for me. I knew it, but I didn't believe it. So then I doubted it. And that doubt, that hesitation, that step back is what caused me not to go through the door when I needed to, not to act when I should have. When I was acting, I was questioning. And all of this, every discussion that we have is meant to put us back into the driver's seat, to put us back on the throne so that we don't question that. We don't look for outside opinions when we get internal answers and internal commandments. We just act on that. We hear it, boom, we go because we have discernment and we know the difference. It says, be still and know. So we will know the difference. And so we don't want to be like, what are you sure? Go. Okay. Yet when you have these beliefs that are telling you that you're not good enough, you don't sense that as a thought in your head. You feel it in your body. It's like reality to you. You say, I'm not good enough, and you feel that way. So this isn't one of those things where you say, I'm not good enough, and you're like, I know it's just a thought. You have created it, ingrained it so much in you, and you believe so much into that it's your reality. So every experience that you have is filtered through that. You keep trying to prove it. You prove that thing right. This is why we keep telling our mentees, clients, community members, we're not here to prove somebody else wrong. You are here to prove yourself right. That is what you have been doing. You said you can't, and you proved yourself right because you didn't. They just echoed that. They didn't believe you would either because you didn't believe you would. So it's time that we recognize these things. So if we're going to prove something to ourselves, we're going to prove that we can. Because we proved enough about our disbeliefs. We've resisted enough. Let's just try it. Put a toe out there. You ain't got to put the whole foot. Put your toe out there and believe. Say something and go act on it and see, did I prove myself right? I said I couldn't do it. Did I prove myself right? Because when you do it, then the world changes. Updating your software. Okay. In Buddhism, we talk about mana. And mana is the concept of I am. And asmimana is the underlying tendency to identify with views about the self. Underlying I am. No, you're not. I can't. No, you can't. The suffering then arises when we cling to these identifications as solid and true. You're clinging to it. You're holding on to that belief that you can't. You need to let it go. You're holding on to belief that it's not the right time and you need to let it go and do it now. You're holding on to the belief, the disbelief that it's not who I am. You need to let it go and recognize, oh, I am. Because a limited belief, like we said, it's a form of asmimana, which is a rigid identification. I am unworthy. The freedom is going to come when we begin to see it as not who we are, not our essence, but just a mental formation. It's just something that formed in our mind. And what forms in your mind does not have to be concrete. You have plenty of thoughts every day, right? And you can choose which ones we are going to follow and which ones we are going to renew. Taoist wisdom tells us to work with resistance. And it says, Lao Tzu tells us, water is fluid, soft, and yielding, but water will wear away rock, which is rigid and cannot yield. In life, what is soft is strong. I know you heard that. In life, what is soft is strong. And now we can go back to something we said earlier. We said that being rigid and wanting to be hard and ain't gonna do it. Soft is strong. Therefore, to be strong is to be soft or to soften. Yet that word has such a negative connotation to it. I know I hate it. Somebody called me soft. Like, you soft. And I remember it was a female did it, but she did it not in a negative way. It was like a compliment. What you mean? Soft. What you trying to say? I ain't soft. I'm hard. I'm hard. Wait a minute. Why am I going against that? I didn't notice it until recently. I am a disciplined person. I'm very structured. I like alignment. Yet because of that, I would always knife hand. See, you messing up. And that doesn't change anything. Matter of fact, the more I did this to myself, the more I actually did that thing that I was doing this about. And then I thought back, I was like, wait, when I was a kid, the more somebody did this to me about something, the more I did that. You hard headed. All you gonna do is get in trouble. Da, 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 da. So what I'm doing, I'm outside. I'm doing what whatever. You yelling at me, oh, I'm about to go do it for real. And so when it came time to begin to develop myself, I saw how much this was causing issues. Yet to be soft was like, what? What? Now I understand it because I too am wanting to give people something to think about, a different perspective. So when I take the word losers and inspired it, created an acronym, love outreaching, set expectations regarding self. I recognize how hard that was going to be because so many people have taken that word and associated with something negative that they never want to embrace that. So then they never get to the other side of the bridge. This is why I said I understand. Society would make a word like soft negative and they'll call you soft and you like, I don't want to be soft. Great. And then they put so much emphasis on strength that we think strength means rigidity. So when you see something or somebody that's rigid, you say, look at them, they got strength. Like that rock, you'd be like, look at that rock, so strong. And then water comes and it erodes the whole rock away. So this idea of strength, when they say be like water, why? Because water is fluid, it moves. Yet when you pick up water, it's also soft and it yields. Nothing gets in water's way, it'll go around it. This is how we can be more like water, fluid in our movements. How do we be fluid in our movements? We don't attach ourselves to specific thoughts. This allows you to just be fluid and move, right? We are softening ourselves because we're not so rigid and hard, saying what we can't, who we're not. We're putting love and compassion into ourselves. And this will also allow us to be yielding. And any rocks that are in the way, we're going to roll them. We're going to move them out the way. We're going to wear them down because we're not coming with an iron fist. We're not trying to knock you out. Yet to be soft doesn't mean something walks over you. When we're applying direct force against something that is rigid, like our belief, it's just going to strengthen that. That's what I was doing. But you got to do better. Why you keep doing that? You did it. It was like, as long as you mad, I'm going to keep doing it. Soon as it was like, it's okay. I see you doing that. You understand? You know what? I understand. I see why we doing that. And we're going to give ourselves the time that we need to take to get through it. I kid you not. That I was done with it in that moment. I felt disgusted. It was like, what? Well, I don't even want to do it no more. I'm serious. I kid you not. It's like, what? I don't even want to do that anymore because you have just okayed it. You understand? No, because I didn't even understand. And it allowed that thing to be washed away. The Taoist approach is soft inquiry, not soft putty body person. Like you just get pushed around. That's not it. Soft inquiry and yielding understanding. I don't come with what I heard, what I see now with a lot of men and their young boys. I heard this in the gym now. Why are you being soft? Look at how weak you being. And they're like, bruh, like the kid, first of all. And I understand that happened to us. That's why we do it. When you go talk to that child, this is why he don't like being in the gym. This is why he's mad and frustrated because we constantly yelling at him instead of coming to him again, soft and inquiry. I had to learn this with my guys. It was like, all right, wait, I got to be soft and inquiry the way I asked a question, yielding and understanding because it's like, you may not know how to do this yet. Also, not rigid, but strong and enforcing the rules and regulations or the things that we need to do to stay on course. This is what I had to learn because I grew up with so much of this. Nobody was soft in inquiry. Nobody was yielding and understanding. Shit, sometimes they didn't even care to understand. Because you was a kid. I don't have to understand you. Matter of fact, speak when you're spoken to. So they don't even ask me how I feel. This developed rigidity. So not for external, but for internal. If you want to break down that strength, you must be water. You must have a soft inquiry into why you're doing the things that you're doing, not judging it, just inquiry and looking, and then yielding and allowing that understanding of why it's happening to arise without you pointing a finger and saying you're bad, you need to be better. None of that. Soft is strong. And losers inspire everyone. Sure. A shamanic and indigenous viewpoint talks about the spiritual block, which is a limited belief can be seen as a spiritual block, an energy that is lodged in the luminous field that filters one's perceptions and fragments personal power. Healing involves retrieving the soul part that accepted that falsehood. That's where we are now, where we are in society. This is what we are talking about. This is what we are hearing. But how many are doing it? We don't know. You just make sure you're one of them, that you are seeing your limited belief as something that is blocking your spirit. It is filtering your perception and fragmenting your personal power. You are stronger, but you are fragmented. And when we put those pieces back together, you're going to recognize, damn, pick up the pieces. That's all you had to do. Oh my goodness. So I was not weak. I was fragmented. I was all over the place. What happens when I'm all over the place, when I am scattered? And healing involves retrieving. You got to go back in there and pull it out. This is why people saying they healed, they lying. This ain't even something that we can do in one lifetime. This is something that you continuously do, and then you just boom. You're not healed, bro. It's like I'm healed. Who determined that? You got a stamp that said healed. In one lifetime, we're here undoing multiples. So the focus shouldn't even be on that. It should just be on, again, unwinding, challenging each one. We shouldn't even be trying to look for the end result of being healed or the end result of the money coming in or the end result of getting the job or the relationship. You should just be doing the work. Then when you look up, guess what happened? Oh, snap, I'm here. You saying, are we there yet? Because you ain't doing what you're supposed to do. You pay attention, looking around, doing everything else. This belief is not just in our psychology. It is part of our energy too. So you heal the whole, you heal the soul, you heal the whole. That is what we truly believe. And that's what this shamanic practice is telling us. And finally, we're going to talk about a metaphysical allegory that comes out of Proverbs 23:7. Metaphysical allegory. That's key. And I hope we never forget that. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. When we're talking about the heart in this aspect, we are talking about that subconscious feeling in our mind. The heart, we say, is here. I get it. Metaphysical allegory. For as he thinketh in his heart, that's the key that's telling you right there. We're talking about our subconscious. What you think from that deep place becomes how you live out your identity, and it becomes your reality. It becomes your life. It becomes your existence. It becomes your everyday. And in order to change your being, you must change the foundational thought in the heart, or else nothing ain't gonna change. You can get all new clothes, you can get a new job, you can become a millionaire, billionaire, trillionaire. You can get a nose job, you can get veneers, you can get glasses, you can get a hair implant, you can do whatever. But if you don't change the foundational thought in your heart, ain't nothing changing. If you still are fearful in your heart, then you will see the fear in your life. For as he thinketh in his heart, so is he. Like I said, we've been told and shown multiple times. Maybe you need to hear a little clearer or question. But now we're going to move to the practice, the life action, where our belief identification and inquiry meet so that we can move from the to I choose. And I choose, I observe, I am. Notice what's in the middle. So this is going to be in 3 stages. Stage 1, we are going to capture and contain. This is the I am statement. We want to capture and contain it. So how we do that is we're going to identify one strong limiting belief. Write it. You want to write it out as, so I am, and this has probably been one of my more profound practices, because we often express how we don't put negatives after I am for a reason. So if you are going to act out on life and you're going to do this practice, I'm telling you, it's going to be profound when you go through the whole thing. So stage one, we are going to write an I am statement. We're going to put the limiting belief there. So you're going to say I am, and you're going to attach that limited belief. So I am not capable of success. Boom. That's what you're going to write on your piece of paper. And you're going to hold that paper. You're going to feel that paper. And when we say feel the paper, you should feel the paper's weight. You got a piece of paper in your hand. You're like, I feel the paper. I'm holding the paper. I feel the paper. Don't say, I feel the paper is light. This is stupid. You got to remove that type of thinking. Hold the paper. Feel the paper's weight. That's it. I am with your limited belief that you're just going to hold that paper and feel it. Stage two, we're interrogating now with compassion. Because we said, you can't be this. You got to soften up. And that softening is going to come with compassion. Bro, you're going to survive. Soften up. All right. So this is the I observe. Remember, I observe. And the last one, I choose. So right now, I observe. We are going to place that paper in front of us. And then you are now going to put on your Sherlock Holmes, right? You're the detective. And you're going to say, in a detecting way, not defending. You're not the defendant. You're the detective. All right. So you're going to ask the questions and journal the answers. You are the detective. The defendant is going to say, I am. And you say, I observe that you are not capable of success. But then you're going to also ask the other thing. I observe that you are capable of success. And then, I want to say this, maybe I split mine down the middle, but I want to say you have to split it down the middle. I just like to see the distinction, okay? A, B side. But that's going to go on the observe. And then you're actually going to begin to put these questions down. So I'll give you two of the questions that I have. You want to find the origin. So you're going to say, when did I first learn this was true? That I observe that I am not capable. When did I first learn this was true? Who or what taught me? This is the origin, where it originated. Who or what taught me? You may not get the answer right away. You may have to sleep on it. You may have to come back. It's okay. We're not trying to force this, right? We're trying to flow with it. Right? Then we want to go to the function. We want to show where it originated and now how it functions, is designed. So we're going to ask, how has believing this protected me? Example would be like, well, it kept me safe from disappointment. I didn't go outside. I wasn't trying to go out behind nobody. I wasn't disappointed by nobody. I'm good. It also kept me from judgment. It kept me from risk. It kept me from being afraid. How has believing this protected me? Now we want to move to the cost. Here's the origin. I started. Its function. Now the cost. What has this belief cost me in joy, opportunity, or connection? What has this belief cost me in joy? What does it cost you there? What does it cost you in opportunities? What has it cost you in connection? And then you're going to provide evidence against it. So we have the origin, we have the function, we have the cost, and now, just like in the court of law, we have to present evidence against it. So you're going to list 3 moments in your life that proves this belief is not 100% true. You are going to list 3 moments in your life that prove that this belief is not 100% true all the time. You said, I am not capable. You're going to list the 3 times in your life where you were capable so that you can prove that it's not right 100% of the time. And now stage 3, we move to reframe and reclaim. Are we going to reframe this? Now, give me that. That's mine. I choose. This is a declaration. We are declaring. The Declaration of Independence declared for the United States of America. You are declaring your independence about what you are going to choose in your life. So based on your inquiry, you're going to craft a new empowered belief. And this is what we are going to inspire our life by. So these are requirements. Okay? It must be positive. It has to state what you are not. It also has to be plausible. It feels like a stretch, but it's not a lie. It may feel like a stretch, but it's not a lie. And then you want to include the present tense as if it's already true. So, an example, I am capable of learning and growing through every challenge. What am I? I am capable of learning and growing through every challenge. Why did that feel like a stretch? Because at one point in time, I did not believe I was capable of learning and growing because they said, oh, at a certain age, you too old for that. So I literally thought, damn, I can't learn no more. I can't grow no more. I'm capped out. I should have studied more in my teenage years, but we realized that that's not true. And we grow through every single challenge. That's like it's already true. Challenges that haven't even happened yet, we're saying we grow through every one. Not just one, all of them. Any one of them. Pick one. Don't matter. You want to go next? And then to finish it out, we're going to take a new piece of paper because we got to start on a clean sheet. We're starting clean. On a clean sheet of paper, you're going to write this new belief beautifully. Color it if you want to. If you're an artist, decorate that thing because you can actually then frame it if you want to and hang it up in your home. And you can see how you went from an old belief and then you transformed it, you renewed it, you reframed it, even literally. You put away those childish things. And this is something you can do to honor the work that you are putting in, to honor yourself. And when we honor ourselves, we are also honoring God. This is what we need to understand. Too many people got that twist. They throw themselves in the trash can because they said, you're not supposed to do that. All right. Maybe we're not listening to God because God been told us plenty of times. He said, you want to know how you honor me? I'll show you. Matter of fact, son, go show him. We ain't listening. And then you're going to tear or burn the old piece of paper if you want to. I kept mine. I was boom because I put them next to each other. The old, that's where we was. This is where we are. But eventually, we're just going to completely get rid of that. But for the time being, I wanted to see both of them together as I am transitioning myself as well. But you can also tear it, burn it, eat it if you want to. I don't know why you do that. And then you're going to hold that new paper, hold up, right? And then we're going to declare it aloud 3 times. Why do you do these things? Before we close out or we move to the contrast, the reason why we do these things is because there is resistance and you don't want to do these things, literally. So you're avoiding that and you're now creating the fears and associations of what you've been told throughout your whole life of, no, you can't do that. That's not it. This isn't true. And we don't know what's true because we have been telling ourselves a lie. So we can't accept that. What we have to do is experience it and allow that to be our truth because what we were telling ourselves, we never truly experienced it. So we allow something to settle in us that wasn't completely true, but we held on to it. And now we want to establish something new that we have created and hold on to that. And so by saying it aloud 3 times, we are doing something that we honestly don't want to do in fear. When we say it aloud, especially when we by ourselves, you start to have these negative thoughts because of what you have been told. That's why we need to do this. In order to see a new reality, we have to act different. We cannot act the same and expect that we won't see the same. So this is where we develop different. This is why I keep putting practices in here because you want me to be, I'll be honest with you. That was something that I resisted because of the negating voices and mindsets and thoughts that I had associated and attached myself to. It was like practice, altars, no. But again, this doesn't come from me. This doesn't come because I spend my time reading books on psychology and therapy, and then I'm like, this is what I want to tell them. I kid you not. This comes because it is directly coming to me through spirit from God. That's it. I told you, I don't even care. I didn't even want to do this. So it's put on my heart. It's like, nope, you got to. And just allow those people to negate. Allow them to be naysayers. Allow them to stop believing in you. Allow them to leave your life if they need to. Because I will promise you one thing. If it's meant for you, it ain't going nowhere. So all these people that we're afraid to lose, because if I do this, then what do they think? That's your sign that you need to test if they are really here, because you may be living in a illusion that you see people around you, but they ain't really there. You see dead people, and we're clinging to that attachment to have them always around us. So we actually want the problems that we have in our life. We don't want resolution. We don't want renewal, because we're crying and complaining about why, because that's how you get renewed. You want to hold on to that forever? You want to be the same thing forever? People say, oh man, you changed. Yes, you should look at them and say, what, you thought I wasn't supposed to? Then when Paul tells me to, at some point, we need to put away our childish things, you saying don't? So don't grow? Don't learn? Who does that benefit? Don't benefit you, but it benefits outside of you. And if that's how you want to operate, just be accountable. So as we contrast protection versus limitation, this is our spectrum of belief. A limited belief is like a prison, boxes you in. What is it, 6x6x7 cell? I don't know. But it's a small cell, barely can move around. And the source comes from our past trauma. Trauma is something through it, but you didn't necessarily have control over it. It also comes through cultural and conditioning and these inherited narratives that you believe was passed down to you through DNA, when it was really passed down to you through conversation. Your parents, your mom told you, your dad told you, grandma said this, and it was ingrained in you. How do you think we get prejudice? Prejudice is not something you experienced. It was something that was passed down to you. They told you to be fearful of this person because of their skin color, or because of their sexual orientation, or because of their religion, and you chose to accept that. Now you live in a prison. Can't go over here, can't go over there, afraid to do this, afraid to do that. And the voice that you hear is absolute fear, and it's rigid. You hear I am, something negating, I can't, all these things, and this always happens to me. The effect that has on your life as you begin to construct a reality around that. Start to resist the things that you should be going towards. And that is what fosters and creates self-sabotage. But it's easier to say they did this to me than to say, well, I chose not to go because the last time this happened to me and I was afraid, and I understand that. Yet again, if we are told to be not afraid, the moment that we are afraid, you're going against it. So when is it ever a time that you're supposed to be afraid? Why are we justifying this? Why are we validating it? Why are we championing it? Why are we pushing this trash out there? Making more people fearful through the information we push out. Oh, did you know? Why? You are told to be not afraid. So you should, if you're told to be not afraid and people are making us afraid, I think we should be pissed off. I think we should be calling this stuff out. Instead, what we're doing is shrinking. We're disappearing because we haven't stood up for ourselves. So how are we going to stand up for everybody else? So this is what allows it to happen. And we say, well, we heard this before. They said, and I'll paraphrase. They said, well, they came for this group, and that wasn't me. Then they came for this group, and that wasn't me, so I stayed silent. Then they came for this group, and that wasn't me, so I stayed silent. And finally, they came for me. When we are empowering our belief, that's the key that unlocks the door, that allows us to go through the threshold. The source is our conscious choice. We choose. We're not saying, I can't, this always, no, we're choosing. I'm choosing to go that way. And if I walk through that door and somehow I chose to go that way. So we start from a conscious choice where our limited belief starts from a past trauma. We begin to present evidence of things. When we have empowered belief, we can present moments, we can present evidence. I keep telling you about my experiences because that is evidence. That is a moment that is real. And it begins to align our vision. I keep saying, I can see clearly now that the rain is gone and that voice is open. is curious, it's flexible. I am positive, learning. I choose to see. It's possible that. Notice that we're not saying I can't. This always happens to me. Now, no fair. We are telling ourselves, I choose. I am. It's possible that. This is to expand ourselves and our reality. This is how we begin to create flow and we begin to support ourselves. There is a high level of support that you are meant to give to yourself before anybody else. Yet we don't. And this is why we're sitting around wishing, hoping, pleading, praying, begging, asking God to send us somebody to support us. And it ain't happened. Because God's like, what, you want me to send somebody? I'm sending you. Every person that I send, you're gonna have them, but you won't be able to hold them because death is gonna do you part because you're killing it. You're gonna self-sabotage. You're gonna start thinking negative about what somebody's doing and they're not doing that. You're gonna start nagging, you're gonna start arguing, you're gonna start being fearful, and then that person's gonna be gone, and you're gonna blame them, and you're gonna say, God, please send me somebody else. And they keep coming. Notice that anytime you've asked, you've always gotten it. Whatever that person that said, but I asked for $1 million and never got it. Yes, you did. You think you're supposed to get it all at once. Maybe you need to be more deliberate and then see that he'll deliver it. But every time you've asked, you got it. You just wasn't able to hold on to it. So you felt like, see, that wasn't mine because if it's for me, I'm supposed to have it for the rest of my life. No, you prepare yourself for that. And our grandparents prepared themselves for that. They were prepared. We aren't. So in order to prepare for that, it starts with us internally. Because that protective pattern once held you. It made sense at that time, but it don't make sense no more. It's not holding you no more. It's suffocating you. It's now choking you out. That limiting belief no longer serves your current self. You got to get rid of it. You got to renew it. And this is why you keep repeating those old outcomes. And so to anchor this in, Joseph Campbell tells us, he reminds us that the cave you fear to enter holds the treasures you seek. Resistance is marking the doorway, not the danger. Will you seek so that you can find life?